Hey guys, we are back with another video today. We are going to talk about spawners in this video. So if you've ever wondered what spawners on your island are the best when it comes to making money, when it comes to buying more of them from the shop in order to make more money, and anything you might want to know about how much the drops sell for, how much the spawners cost, all that good stuff we're going to go over in this video. We're going to break it up between non-hostile mobs and hostile mobs. A couple of notes before we get into it. There are a number of creature spawners that we haven't included in this video, that being witches, slimes, spiders, and there's one more. Oh, magma cubes. Really just because none of those are really that useful for these types of grinders. Obviously spiders you can't kill with fall damage. Witches drop a bunch of nonsense you don't want or need or can't sell, and then slimes are just kind of annoying. So we're not focusing on those mobs today, even though there are spawners that exist. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the non-hostile mobs and start seeing where you should put your money. Alright, so to kick things off, we are going to start with the non-hostile mobs, and a couple of notes here. We are covering a number of mobs here. Chickens, obviously you can't kill with fall damage, but the farm to kill them with ocelots is super easy to make. Card up in the top, check out a video on how to do that, so I included it here as a result. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with what you get at the early game and kind of progress through the progression as you unlock the islands. So first up, we have cows. Cows, the spawner costs 25k. And what you're going to see here is a table and a breakdown of what it looks like drop-wise per hour. So I tested this per hour for each of the spawners we're going to go through, and this is what it breaks down to for cows. So for cows, you get 624 raw beef-ish. It's not an exact science. This is all based on the spawner spawn rates, which are technically somewhat random. So yours could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less. Either way, this is still a good baseline to go by. So you get 624 beef, and you've got a sell price of $7 if it's raw, $15 if it's cooked, steak, and then obviously with cows you get leather as well, so we got 360 leather in an hour. What this breaks down to is about $6,000 for all the raw beef. If you choose to cook it, it's about $11,000 an hour. Now if you take that and compare it against the actual cost of the spawner, so if you went and bought a new one from the shop, what that means is in about 4 hours you will make your money back and start making positive money and for the raw, and if you decide to cook all your steak, then it will take you about 2 hours to get your money back. So you don't get a ton of money per se, but you make your money back really quickly on the spawner itself, which makes this a really efficient buy. Next up, we've got chickens. Like I mentioned, you can't kill these by making them fall long distances, but again, still a super easy farm that you can set up on your island to get lots of chicken and feathers, and this is what the chicken breakdown looks like. So the spawner costs 100,000 coins, and in an hour we got about 372 raw chicken, sells for 15 bucks. If you cook it, it sells for 25, so you get $10 more per. And then we got about 300 feathers, which sell for $22 at the shop. What this nets out to money-wise is $12,000 if you sell all your chicken raw, and about $16,000 if you decide to cook that chicken. And then when you compare that to what the spawner costs, it's about 8 hours of time in order to make your money back for the raw chicken, and you get your money back in about 6 for the cooked. Alright, pigs. Pigs are where things start to get a little bit interesting. So obviously the spawner costs a lot more, 2.6 million per spawner, but the numbers are definitely interesting when we get into them. So in an hour we got about 540 pork, or raw pork, which sells for 200 coins. If you cook it, you get a really nice price jump, so you go from $200 to $300 per. And then what this nets out to in terms of total money is in an hour you make about 108,000 for the raw pork and 162 for the cooked pork. And if you compare that to what the spawner costs, that means you're looking at about 24 hours of time before you make your money back on the raw and only 16 hours on the cooked. Now, what's interesting is this seems like it takes a lot longer to get your money back than the cow and the chicken, and while that's true, you're getting significantly more money over the course of that hour. So you're looking at 162,000 on the high end versus 16 on the high end. So you get almost 10x the the money you get for chickens, and even more so than cows. So as you get to the point in the game when on your island you've unlocked pigs, this is where pigs really start to take off in terms of being one of your main money makers if you're able to set up a mob dropper to kill them and get the pork. And last up, we have sheep for the non-hostile mobs. Sheep are actually pretty disappointing. Sheep are the last non-hostile mob that you unlock. You get them on the extreme hills biome. And you'd think that as you continue to progress, the mobs you get access to give you better and better drops. Sheep really turn that on its head. So for a sheep spawner, it's 22 million, which is crazy expensive. And what you get drops-wise is fairly disappointing. So you get 486 raw mutton. It sells for 120. If you cook it, it sells for 150. You also get wool, obviously. So we got 330 wool, sells for 112. And when you net this out, you get about 95,000 if you just sell the raw mutton, and you get about 109,000 if you decide to cook it. Seems like a lot of money, but when you take that and compare it to how much time you'd have to wait in order to get your money back, it doesn't really make sense. When you compare this to pigs, not only do you get about only 2/3 of what you make from the pork chops, but it also takes you like, I don't know, 10 plus times longer to actually make your money back. So all this to say, you'll get a couple sheep spawners when you unlock the island. Certainly doesn't hurt to throw them into a dropper if you have one. Not a great investment, though, from a money-making perspective. All right, now we're taking it back to the beginning again for the hostile mobs. We're going to start off with zombies. They're really straightforward. It costs 500k for a spawner. They only drop one thing, at least when you drop them from a high place. You get 296 rotten flesh per hour, which sells for $90 a piece, and what that nets out to is 26,000 per hour. If you compare that to what it costs, it takes you about 19 hours or so to make your money back. And while this might not be super impressive, you will unlock zombies much earlier than you unlock something like pigs in the progression of your island. So this is a great moneymaker. On our island, we had, I think, close to 20 zombie spawners going before we switched over to pigs, or by the time we got to pigs. Just because in the early to mid game, it still makes you quite a bit of money. So this one's still definitely a solid investment. Next up, we have skeletons. So skeletons, the spawners cost 22 million, so again, kind of expensive. In an hour, we got 252 bones, which sell for 350 coins. We do get arrows as a part of this. I forgot to track how many arrows I got, but it doesn't matter. You can't sell arrows for anything, so that gives you a big fat 0. And when you look at the bones themselves, you get about 88,000 per hour. And if you compare that to what the spawner costs, it takes about 57 hours to get your money back. So while bones can make you a good amount of money, and it certainly doesn't hurt to stick your skeleton spawners that you get from unlocking islands into a dropper, not the greatest investment, and frankly they're pretty annoying because your chests will just fill up with arrows that you basically can just throw into the void. You need some of them for some quests, but you certainly don't need them in the quantities that you get them. So zombies or skeleton spawners, you can get some money, but they're certainly a little bit more hassle than what they give you value-wise. Next up, we got Pigment. Pigment are some of the most expensive spawners you can buy outside of a couple that you get when you unlock the last island. It costs 40 million per spawner, and in the course of an hour, you net out about 156 rotten flesh, which sells for 90. And then on here, obviously with Pigment, you get gold nuggets, but it translates into gold ingots, which you can actually sell in the shop at $800 a pop. So we got 21 of those, and that nets about 31,000 coins. And this one looks really bad when you compare it to what it costs you to buy it. It'd take you almost 1,300 hours to actually make your money back on this. Now, I will say most people aren't buying Pigment spawners to make money. They're usually buying them for the gold nuggets. But even at what these cost, I think as you get further into the game, you're going to have higher and higher values of fortune on your pick, which you can use on gold gens and get more gold than you need. We have, I think, 30 gold gens on our island, and mining those a couple times a day, I don't miss the Pigment spawners at all. Alright, last up we have the Creeper spawner, and this one is pretty interesting. So it costs 40 million, so very expensive, but the gunpowder sells for a lot. So in an hour, we got about 378 gunpowder, which sells for 1,000 coins a piece. So easy math gives us about 378,000 an hour, and when you compare that against the cost of the spawner, it takes you about 106 hours to make your money back. So while this one takes a decent amount of time to actually get your money back, you make a ton of money, right? So 378,000 compared to some of the other numbers is significantly higher, and we'll see that in the summary here in a second. But this one makes a ton of money. This is really where you make all of your late game money, and is where you're going to end up from a mob grinder perspective. So all that being said, we've covered each of the individual ones, my thoughts and opinions on them. Now let's take a quick look at a summary of all the information that we just looked at and tie it all together. Alright, so now we've got our summary, and we've broken it up by how much you make per hour on the left by the spawner, and how much you make on, and how many hours it takes to get your money back on the right. So obviously the more money you make per hour, the better, and the quicker you get your money back, the better, to an extent. So while cow spawners give you your money back in 2 hours, they don't sell for, the drops they give you don't sell for a whole lot of money. So you're going to spend a ton of time selling stuff for not much money. So there does come a point in the game where you will naturally transition from cows to zombies to pigs to creepers, and this is kind of a good representation of why that is currently the way it is in CubeCraft's Skyblock server. So this is a breakdown of what all that looks like. Again, typically that progression is cows, zombies, pigs, and creepers. On our island, we have all the islands unlocked at this point. The only spawners that we're running really are creepers and pigs, and I definitely can see the pigs phasing out as we get more and more creeper spawners. I think we only have about 10 so far, so the pigs still do give us a decent amount of money, but certainly in the short term, or in the near future, I see us just having creepers on our island. So this is the breakdown. This is how everything really nets out from a dollars and cents perspective. Hopefully this was helpful for you and gives you some insight into what spawners are good, what aren't so good, and then what spawners are kind of just downright terrible when it comes to making money. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you love this content and want more of it, please feel free to subscribe and continue to look out for more videos in the future. Thanks guys, and see you later.